Hello, I'm Miriam.
And I'm Emilie.
The overall topic is post-war America, and our topic is anxiety.
The Cold War started in 1945 and ended in 1991. The two strongest military superpowers at this time were the United States and the Soviet Union. These superpowers tried to spread the power across the whole world, and both of them began to rearm against each other by increasing the number of weapons and armed forces. This rearm led to two superpowers with big stocks of nuclear weapons available in case of a war. Parts of the world were divided into an East Bloc, where the Soviet Union increased its influence, and also a West Bloc, where the United States had huge influence and power. At least no direct war occurred between the blocs. The nuclear weapons, which were able to eradicate all life on Earth, posed a threat to a war. A push-button war means a war where missiles can be launched by the press of a button, or just a war in which nuclear weapons are used to fight the conflict. They are using nuclear weapons in push-button wars, contrary to normal wars, where the warfare occurs without using nuclear weapons. A nuclear war is much more destructive to the environment and to the people than a normal war is. The US was the only country that possessed nuclear weapons at the end of the Second World War. In 1949, it changed when the Soviet Union was known to have tested nuclear bombs by September. There was a rising balance of terror as the two superpowers suddenly command nuclear bombs. Afterwards, Americans came to fear not only the prospect of a push-button war between the East and the West Bloc, but also a huge expansion of communism. Nuclear bombs and terror became the biggest threat and fear to the Cold War.
Another fear from this time was of communism, and this fear grew with time. After the Second World War, an agreement was made. In this agreement, it stated that the United States and the Soviet Union divided Korea into two. They each took protective possession of their part of Korea. The United States got South Korea, and the Soviet Union got North Korea. The Korean War started when a North Korean army attacked South Korea in 1950. The war in Korea was very bloody, and the war claimed around 3 million lives, where many were civilians. It ended in July 1953, after 2 years of peace negotiations. But the relationship between North and South Korea are today still very tense. The war in Korea lasted from 1950 till 1953. And it was a clear example that the US would do anything to oppose any kind of communist aggression. They entered the war both to save and to defend what they thought would be the only way to have free people in the world.
France had been trying to keep Indochina as a colony, but Vietnamese communists and nationalists had been fighting to get released from the French regime for 8 years. French Indochina was divided into 3 nations on a conference meeting in Geneva. The 3 nations were called Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. Vietnam was at the moment temporarily divided into North Vietnam and South Vietnam, and there were supposed to be elections about uniting them, but they were never held. The United States were afraid that Vietnam would become communist if the two were united. They allied with the South Vietnamese dictator and helped him attack North Vietnam, who had a communist leader. The United States had a theory that if one country fell to the communists, all the other would follow. It was called the domino theory, and it was also the reason for the United States to support South Vietnam, because they were afraid the whole Indochina, and with it Burma, Thailand, Malaya, and Indonesia, would be lost to the communists.
Joseph Raymond McCarthy was born November the 14th in 1908. He was elected a Republican senator of Wisconsin in 1946. At first he flew a bit under the radar as a senator, but that changed in 1950 when it became public that the communists should have infiltrated the United States government. A fear that America might be attacked from within grew all over America, which made grounds for what was later called the Red Scare. He took the lead on this issue, and it is what made him famous, but it is also what became his downfall. Joseph McCarthy declared that 205 communists had infiltrated the United States Department, and he also claimed that he was in possession of 57 names of State Department communists. He wanted a thorough investigation into the problem. McCarthy chaired the Senate's Committee on Government Operations, where he came with his accusations. Many of the accusations he did not have any evidence for, but they still ruined many lives of both high-profile Americans and other non-prominent Americans. Even though McCarthy did not have much to back up his claims, his popularity still rose because the fear of the communists were real for the American population.